Quail's Knitting Nest. My name is Joy, and this is my nest. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing today. This is a pink cardigan, fresh off the needles. I've been working on this for 2 months. It got interrupted because of the quarantine knit along with Arna and Carlos, so I didn't spend as much time on it as I otherwise normally would have. This cardigan is called the Heartwood Cardigan, and it is from the spring 2020 issue of Interweave Knits. So this is the most current issue that's out right now. When I saw the cardigan on the cover, I liked it, and I also knew right away what yarn I was going to use. I've had this yarn in my stash for literally years. A person I know gave it to me back when I first started knitting. So almost 20 years this yarn has been in my stash, and I have used it for other things, but I had an entire box full. Here's the yarn. It is called Alpaca Superfina, Alpaca Finest Quality Andean Yarns. Look at the alpacas on the label. They're so cute. So I've already made 2 shawls out of this yarn, and now I've made a cardigan, and I still have probably 20 balls left. They're 50-gram balls, I think. The only problem with this yarn is that it's so old that it breaks, and any one 50-gram ball can have 20 breaks in the skein. It can be very frustrating. A lot of the breaks I was able to just do a spit splice and put them together to help eliminate all those ends, but sometimes it just would not felt together, and I just had to live with the ends. So I spent a lot of time weaving in ends on this cardigan, even though it's only one solid color. It is so soft. This is probably the softest sweater I own, including the cashmere sweater I have. I love it. I'm waiting to see how it wears, because oftentimes the softer the sweater, the more pills you end up getting on it. But since this is fresh off the needles, I don't have any information about that yet. So stay tuned. As always, I made some modifications on this, as you can see in the picture, or maybe you can't see because of her hair. The original sweater, the lace bands at the front came up and then just stopped here at the neck, and then just like a regular neck was put on. And I tried that on the first front panel. I did that, and then when it was finished, I thought, I wonder if I could continue the lace panel up the side to the shoulder. And I did the second front this way. And I took it to my knitting group. I had both fronts, and I said, okay, which one? And they all agreed that the one that continued up to the shoulder was the one. So that's what I did. I added waist shaping, and I did a flap in the back. I made the flap about a 1/2 inch longer, as you can see. And I also added short rows in the back, which you probably can't see, but they are there to help bring it down. Other than that, I think it's pretty much the same. I kept the same lace panels on the front and the back, and also on the sleeve. I did have a little trouble after, so what happened was I did the fronts on a 16-inch needle. And then when I went to do the back, I didn't have a 16-inch needle in the same needle. So the one I did on the front was a Susan Bates metal needle, and the one I used for the back was an Addi Turbo. And even though they're both metal and they're both US size 2, they're not the same size. The Susan Bates was smaller and the Addi Turbo was larger. I think the metric system has 2 different sizes that fit into the US 2 category. So the back turned out a little bit bigger than I was hoping for, but it fits. It's great. The issue came with the sleeves. The sleeves also turned out wider than they should have been. And I don't think it's too noticeable, I hope. But they are a little puffy and puckery at the top of the sleeve where it got. Because here it's too big, but it's okay. But up in this portion, you can see kind of here where there's like extra fabric. But I think it works okay. If I didn't tell you, you probably wouldn't even notice, right? Now the sweater's not quite finished because there is a button band here. You probably can't see the buttonholes, but there's a buttonhole. Because we're still under stay-at-home orders here in Pennsylvania, I can't get out to the store to find myself some buttons. I haven't looked in my stash, but most of my button stash are just single buttons. I don't think I have any. I think I need 7 buttons. And I might have some that are 7, but not for this size. Well, maybe I will look. However, I don't think so. It may have to wait to get buttons until after we can go shopping again. So there's my sweater. Today, I have another unboxing. Earlier this month was supposed to be the Allentown Fiber Festival. And of course we couldn't go because it had been shut down. But instead, what they did, which was really cool, was they did a virtual online festival on their Facebook page. And what they did was every half hour all day long, they had a different vendor featured, and they would live stream and tell you about themselves or their product or whatever. And one of the people that I was hoping to see there was Alistair Post-Quinn. He is one of the top 3 names in the world of double knitting. And I have been an admirer of his for a long time. Now, before I open this, I will show you this, which is his first book, Extreme Double Knitting. And I had gotten this when it first came out because I was just enthralled and I thought it was the coolest thing. However, I purchased this in December of 2012, so I probably got this for Christmas that year. This book is 8 years old, and I've never tried anything out of here yet. You see that hat? How cool is that? I love that hat. There are so many fun things in here, and I just have not tried any of them. Get that scarf. This scarf, I think, is actually now a free pattern on Ravelry. And I've always been intrigued by double knitting. I really like this tie, although I don't think my husband would wear it if I made it. So in the intervening years, it's been 8 years since I got this book, and it was published, let me see when it was published, 2011. So the book is now 9 years old. In the meantime, he got the rights from the publisher back and decided to revamp his book. And he was posting on Facebook regular updates. This is what I changed in this pattern. This is what I changed in this pattern. This is what I learned since I wrote the book, blah, blah, blah. And there were so many changes and updates that I thought, I want to get that new book. So that's what this is. Let's open it and see. Ta-da! So the old book is like this with this cover, and the new book is like this with this cover. And because I ordered it off his website, he signed it for me. So if I had gone to the festival and bought it from him there, he could have signed it for me there. But since we were not in person, he did it virtually. Oh, and another cool feature is, because I bought the print book, I can also get a digital copy and have it in my Ravelry library. So it's the same book with the same patterns, but he's done a lot of tweaks and added things and just made the whole book better. So maybe it will not be another 8 years until I actually make something from it. In the meantime, he published a second book, which is called Double or Nothing, and I also bought that one. I don't remember if I don't remember when I got it, but this was published in 2016, so probably 3 or 4 years ago I got this one. And this one does entrelac double knitting, lace double knitting, crazy stuff. I mean, things you would think couldn't be double knit, he does with double knitting. So very fun. I have another finished object to show you today. I finished a pair of socks. I'm going to stick it on the sock blocker so you can see it up close. I'm one of those people that always has a sock on the needles. Pretty much 100% of the time. Every once in a while I take a break, but it's always good to have something on the needles. Socks are my travel project. So I'll take them to knitting club or to church meetings or wherever I'm going. I use my own pattern. It's one that I published a long time ago, back when I worked in a yarn shop. It's called Custom Fit Socks. You plug in your own numbers, so you measure your foot and you put in your own gauge and you do a little math, which is step by step written out in the pattern, and then you make your sock. It's done top down on 3 needles, or well, three needles on the cuff, and then 4 for the gusset. And for this, I used my favorite summer yarn. It's a cotton, which of course has been discontinued. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's called Jawoll Cotton. It's a German yarn. I love it. this is the third pair that I've made using this yarn, and the other two pair that I have are outstanding. They're nice and cool to wear in the summer. They've held up really nicely. They have crisp stitch definition. I'll show them to you sometime, but one of them has a intricate like cable-y pattern on it, and it just shows up so nicely. It's great yarn. Another of my favorite summer cotton yarns, which has also been discontinued, is called Sakata by Plymouth. And it's very similar to this yarn in terms of the way it looks and feels. So now, since both of them are discontinued, I'm going to have to find myself new yarn for summer socks. So question, do any of you know a good yarn for summer socks? Let me know down in the comments. This is what I had left over. I used about 1.5 balls. So I still have almost 50 grams left. Wait, that's not right. I had 2 50-gram balls, so that means this is 25 grams. What I forgot was what I'm working on now. I finished the sweater, I finished the socks, I finished the pillow. So I finished one pair of socks. I immediately had to cast on another pair. Usually when I knit socks for myself, I use my own pattern, like I said, custom fit socks, which is done top down. I prefer that construction, both because it's familiar to me. I have it like in my head and I don't have to think about it. Also, I like the way the heel flap fits on my foot. I think it's a good, well-fitting style. I've done a couple of toe-up socks, and I just haven't been happy with them, so I'm like, why bother? However, this next pair is for my husband. The problem with my husband is he has big feet. And I have 2 50-gram skeins, which is probably not enough for socks for him because of his big feet. So what I've learned to do over the years is I knit his toe up, and then I just knit until I run out of yarn. So I have 1 ball for each foot, and the sock is only as long as I have yarn for. That way I don't have to buy 3 balls or 2 100-gram balls. And even so, to give myself a little wiggle room, I often use a contrasting color for the toe. So this time I picked out what I thought was black, but it's actually navy blue. But I don't think it will matter. So there's the contrasting color, and then this is a so this is Regia 4 fetid color. And this is a multi that's like brown and tan and beige with a little bit of black in it. Color 5574. So I think this will make nice socks. One thing I wanted to mention about the socks is that I use these carbon needles because when I was first knitting, I first started to use Brittany Birch, and in the size 1, which I use for socks, they would break on me. Then I switched to bamboo, which I still have some of my bamboo needles. And I really like the bamboo. I don't know if you can see it, but it's bent. There, when I roll it around, you can kind of see that it's not straight. So the bamboos bend. I still have them for emergencies or whatever. And then because I'm a fan of Addy Turbos, I got some metal size 1 double points that are Addy Turbos. And I did try to use them as well. But two things. One, they're Addy Turbos, so they're super slippery. And, you know, stitches just slide all over the place, which is great for regular knitting, but for socks, not so much. And two, the metal needles were really heavy. Anyway, it just didn't work. So when I saw these carbons, I thought, let me try them. They're metal, so they don't bend or break, but they're not slick nickel-plated metal. It's like a matte fabric almost. So the stitches, like if I held my Addies up like this, the needle would just slide right out of them. But these, you know, it grabs them and they hug and they're fine. I love these. The one drawback, however, is that they are black. And if you're knitting dark colors, like the toe of this sock, that could be an issue. So you just need really good light. One other thing I wanted to mention is the toe. For toe-up socks, a lot of people like Judy's Magic cast on, or they do a figure 8 cast on or some sort of provisional cast on. But not me. I like to use a short row toe. And what that is you start at the widest part here. You short row down to the smallest, narrowest part, and then you pick up the short rows and you short row back up the other side. And then you connect it there. I like this toe for a couple of reasons. First of all, when you do a figure 8 cast on or a Judy's Magic cast on or whatever, you're usually starting on like only 8 stitches and it's just awkward. Here I cast on 36 stitches and it was just easier because there were more stitches. And then when you do a short cast on and you work up, when you're increasing for the toe, a lot of times it gets real thin in this area where you're increasing because you're using up stitches and they stretch out, and sometimes you get holes depending on what kind of increase you use. But with the short row toe, you're going down and back and you're kind of doubling the edge and it's making it thicker instead of thinner. And I feel like it's a good well-wearing, or it's not an increase point in this case, but you know, where your toe rubs against it. So I really like the short row toe. So that's what I'm working on now. I finished the sweater and I finished the socks. So I have another question for you. Have you finished anything recently? Let me know in the comments what you've made. I'm interested to find out. For now, that's it, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.